The day started like any other. A quiet morning, sunlight slipping lazily through the curtains, casting soft gold on the wooden floor. I was staying at my cousin's place for a week, city job interviews, apartment hunting, the usual mess of adulthood. He was away on a work trip, and his roommate, Maya, had been kind enough to let me stay. She was polite, reserved, always in a hurry. We barely spoke beyond a few words. Until that morning. I'd just finished a Zoom call, still in my hoodie and sweatpants, wandering into the hallway with my mind half lost in job rejections. The apartment was silent, no footsteps, no noise, so I assumed I had the place to myself. That's when I passed the bathroom door. It was open just an inch. Steam curled out like a breath. I glanced inside without thinking. What I saw wasn't meant for me. Maya stood with her back to the mirror, towel loosely wrapped around her, head tilted slightly as she wiped steam off the glass. The towel barely clung to her, and for a split second I froze, unsure whether to back away or say something. Then the towel slipped. It wasn't like in movies, no dramatic gasp, no screaming. Just the soft fall of cotton hitting tile. Her back arched instinctively, and she reached for it, but our eyes met in the mirror before she did. I opened my mouth to apologize, to flee, to vanish into the hallway. But she didn't move. She turned slowly, arms loosely covering herself, her face unreadable. "You saw, didn't you?" she said quietly. I nodded, guilt flooding my face. "I didn't mean." "Don't leave," she said. I blinked. My heart thudded. "Maya, this is wrong. I didn't mean to look. I'm so sorry." She stepped forward, a strand of hair sticking to her cheek, still wet from the shower. "You've been here a week. You never even looked at me. Not once. Not like other guys do." I swallowed. I was trying to be respectful. She smiled faintly. "And yet here you are. It was an accident." She came closer, the towel now clutched in one hand. Her voice dropped, almost a whisper. "Then let's pretend it wasn't." I stood there, stunned. The air between us thickened with something I couldn't name. Curiosity, tension, guilt. Everything all at once. She reached out slowly, touched my hand. "Why do you always hide? Even from yourself?" Before I could answer, she leaned forward, her lips inches from mine, and whispered something I'll never forget. "You're the only one who's ever made me feel seen." And then she stepped back, eyes locked on mine, waiting. For what? I wasn't sure. My throat was dry. My brain, chaos. That's when the front door clicked. Keys jingled. My cousin was home early. Maya's eyes widened just a little, and with a soft laugh, she turned back into the bathroom, door closing gently behind her. I stood frozen in the hallway, heart pounding, the sound of the shower starting again echoing in my ears. What had just happened? And why did it feel like the beginning of something I couldn't control? To be continued. The moment the front door opened, I spun around and darted back into the guest room, closing the door quietly behind me. My heart was still racing, like it didn't know whether to panic or explode with something else entirely. What had just happened in that hallway? It wasn't normal. It wasn't planned. And it definitely wasn't something I could forget. I heard my cousin greet Maya, casual as ever. They chatted briefly, something about traffic and lunch plans. And then the apartment settled into a strange silence. I sat on the edge of the bed, hands clasped tightly in front of me, staring at the floor. What did she mean by those words? Why did she let that moment happen? The rest of the day passed in a fog. Maya didn't come out of her room until late afternoon. When she did, she was back to being composed, fully dressed, and distant. We crossed paths in the kitchen. She poured herself a glass of water, acting like the morning hadn't happened. "Hey," I said awkwardly. She looked at me with a small smile. "Hey." That was it. No mention of the towel. No whisper. No touch. I wanted to say something. Anything. But my cousin was right there on the couch watching TV, oblivious. So I kept quiet. The next morning, things got stranger. I was brushing my teeth when I noticed something taped to the bathroom mirror. A small post-it note in delicate handwriting. "Do you still see me?" My breath caught. I glanced toward the door. Locked. I took the note down, folded it, and slipped it into my pocket. That evening, my cousin left again, off to stay the night at his girlfriend's place. As soon as the door shut, the apartment felt different. Charged. I was in the kitchen making tea when Maya entered, barefoot, her hair tied back, wearing a soft gray t-shirt and shorts. Casual, but she somehow looked more radiant than ever. "You didn't answer my note," she said. I looked at her, unsure how to respond. I didn't know how. She stepped closer. Then let me ask you again. Do you still see me? Or did you look away after that moment? I swallowed hard. Maya, I see you. I always did. I just didn't think you wanted to be seen. Her eyes softened. Most people look at me like a photo, something to admire, not understand. But you never stared. You listened, even when I wasn't talking. She reached into her pocket and handed me something. It was a second note. I unfolded it slowly. If I open the door again, will you stay? Maya, I whispered. Why me? She leaned against the counter. Because you're not running away. Even now, when everything feels uncertain. That's rare. The tea kettle screamed, startling both of us. I turned it off, but the heat in the room wasn't from the stove anymore. That night, we sat on the balcony, just the two of us, sharing stories. She told me about her childhood, how she moved around a lot, how she never felt rooted anywhere. I told her about my rejections, the interviews, the weight of trying to prove myself. Somewhere between laughter and silence, her hand brushed mine. We didn't pull away. The city lights flickered in the distance, but I only saw the way she looked at me, like she wasn't afraid anymore. Come inside, she said softly. I followed her, past the living room, down the hallway. This time, it was her bedroom door that was slightly ajar. She stopped in front of it, turned to me, and said, If I close this door now / you don't have to pretend anymore. My heart thudded. Pretend what? She stepped closer, eyes fixed on mine. That we didn't feel at the moment the towel fell. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. She reached for the door handle, her fingers pausing. Last chance, she said, almost teasing. Are you staying? I stepped into the doorway. And she smiled. / to be continued. The room was dimly lit, bathed in the amber hue of a single bedside lamp. As I stepped inside, Maya closed the door softly behind me, shutting out the rest of the world. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. We just stood there, quietly breathing in the same space, surrounded by things unsaid but deeply understood. She reached out and took my hand, guiding me to sit beside her on the edge of the bed. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't reckless. It was gentle, intentional, like two people learning the rhythm of trust in real time. You know, she said, her voice hushed, I never let anyone in here. Not really. Not just into my room, but into me. I nodded. I've never felt like I belonged anywhere. Until now. She rested her head on my shoulder, and for the first time since I arrived, the silence between us felt safe. Not awkward. Not heavy. Just quiet understanding. We talked late into the night, no longer strangers trying to avoid emotions, but two souls laying down their defenses. She spoke of pain she never let show. A father who left, a mother who worked too much, a string of shallow connections that always ended with her feeling more invisible. I told her about my doubts, how I never felt enough, how rejection became a pattern, how I'd learned to expect the worst. We didn't promise forever. We didn't say anything that felt larger than the moment. But in that moment, we were real, honest, vulnerable. When I woke up the next morning, sunlight spilled across the sheets. Maya was still asleep, her fingers lightly curled around mine. And in that stillness, I understood something. It wasn't about what had happened in the bathroom. Not really. It wasn't about the towel, or the whisper, or the tension that followed. It was about being seen, truly seen, and seeing someone in return. Later that day, as I packed my bags to head to my next interview, Maya walked me to the door. We hugged, longer than casual, lighter than permanent. Will I see you again? She asked. I smiled. You already did. And so did I. We didn't make grand promises. But something in the way we parted said we'd both carry this moment forever. Not as a fantasy, but as a lesson. That sometimes the most unexpected moments crack us open, and what spills out is not lust or drama, but the simple truth that we all just want to be noticed, held, and understood. Moral: true connection doesn't begin with physical attraction. It begins when someone sees you, not for what you show, but for who you really are.